tell us any wins. What good is happening in the business personally? Um, just kind of share with us what's going on today.
Well, this is my first
isn't
call
really a
with you guys,
business
so
win,
congratulations.
but sorry, Jason.
Jason,
that's
we're
okay.
happy.
I was just kind of introducing myself. I'm Jason Taylor. Glad to be with you guys. I guess a win for me this week is our phone has been fairly busy with a lot of people calling in for estimates and stuff. And I'm just wanting to kind of meet with you guys, kind of feel out how you guys are doing things. And probably today I'll probably just do a lot of listening rather than questions. So
We love that, Jason. We're so happy to have you here. Soak it all in. And don't be afraid if you do have a question, speak up. So we're excited to be working with you. I saw you sent me that profit and loss statement this morning, and that's a win in itself. Jason and I met yesterday. He already got one of his action items done. So I'm excited to be working with you here. James, I think you mentioned you have a win.
Yeah, it's kind of a business win. I closed on a flip property that I have been sitting for about 3 months yesterday. So unfortunately, I didn't make any money on it because it sat for so long, and I had to drop my price to get it done. But the market's not quite what they think it is right now. But anyway, at least it's off my books, so that's good.
Yep, nice.
That is huge. Laura, I see your hand raised.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I kind of have two wins.
Ooh.
The first win is we have closed every estimate. Matt has done, I think it's 6 this week, implementing the scripts and following Nicole's instructions. And we have closed and won 4 or 6. I got to go look. I'm the KPI tracker, and clearly I'm not tracking well. But in any event, it's working. So thank you.
Yes, Laura,
Right.
you do a phenomenal job of tracking. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your guys' coachability and commitment to the script. But
Yeah.
that's very exciting.
Well, and
Laura,
even to charge for an estimate. I mean, my grandfather's probably flipping over in his grave that we're charging people for an estimate, but it works. So we're excited about that. The second win is we have onboarded with House Call Pro software, and that is very exciting. And we are going to use their payroll feature. And it occurred to me as we're onboarding for the payroll that I have done a payroll every week since 1997. And going forward, I won't be doing the payroll anymore. And I don't know how I feel about it. I think I'm happy. I'm letting go.
Yes, Laura, that is so exciting. And you'll still have plenty to manage, plenty to look over, I promise.
Well, maybe I can keep up with the KPI if I don't have to do the payroll.
Yes. I love it, Laura. Very
Thank
excited
you.
about all that you guys are implementing and all the changes. And yeah,
Laura,
love working with you.
I'm kind of going to tee you up a little bit for a question here, but I love the one that you shared about following the script and that it's working. But a lot of people have a lot of hesitations about using a script. Did you have those hesitations, and how do you make it not sound like a robot if you felt like that was possible?
Yeah, how much whining did I do, Nicole, about the script? Like, this is so stupid. I sound like, I'm an Academy Award-winning actress with this script. No, we've had a lot of conversation about the script, and I finally just embraced it and was like, okay, we're paying a lot of money to do this. These people know what they're doing clearly. Just quit fighting it and just do it. And Matt and I were, how are we going to answer the phone? And, all these things that you've done just kind of on survival mode or self-pilot, and anyway, if I can encourage anybody here on the call, if you aren't implementing the script, just do it. Don't fight it, just do it.
Yes, Laura, preach. I can hear the hallelujahs and amens in the office here today.
Hallelujah.
Yep. And it takes time. It takes practice. It takes getting comfortable with it. And once you realize it's an outline, you can still have a conversation. This is just a guideline, so you know what to be saying, Love to hear it. Billy, I see your hand up. If you could unmute and tell us what's happening.
Oh,
Maybe it was an accident. Maybe he can't get unmuted. Billy, if you're able to put it in the chat, if you can't unmute or if you think of it later or figure it out, we'd love to hear from you. Just don't hesitate to interrupt if you're able to figure it out, or put it in the chat. That's always an option as well.
Cool.
Okay, what other wins do we have here today, guys? We'd love for you to turn on your cameras, unmute if you can, share the wealth.
And if you don't have a win, but you do have a
We got
question.
a small win here.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Kevin?
Kevin.
We got a small win. Nope, no worries. I was looking at a Google profile page together, contractors, and about 2 weeks ago we were number 3, and now we're number 2. So moving up in the
Hey.
rankings, which is a good deal.
Woo, 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 Kevin. Yes.
Good.
Laura, I see your hand up.
So I see Matt is on the call, my brother Matt, but I don't know if he's in a place where he can unmute. But Matt had a huge win this week. So we're wrapping up on a large commercial project for Touro University out in Mare Island, and it has a lighting control system for the campus. And we had the manufacturer out to do the programming for the lighting controls. And they typically schedule 7 to 10 business days for the programming. We got it done in a day and a half, and that's just because the install was so good.
Woo!
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, I love that. Matt has to be happy with that one.
Yeah, I think that's happy and just a tremendous relief, because it could, when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. So yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty cool.
Woo. Michael, I see your hand up over here with your gorgeous pups.
Yes, one of them. There's 3 in the car right now. Yeah, Alyssa started my Facebook campaign, and it's, I think, 10, 15 days ago. It's done fairly well. I had over 20-something responses. It's Facebook is a different marketplace, is a different animal altogether. You get some nasty responses, no phone calls, but I've got 3 or 4 pretty good leads out of it.
Hey,
Awesome.
Michael, what I love about that is you said, I've gotten some shit leads from it. And I love that you said that, because some people have unrealistic expectations with ads. They think that every lead that comes in is going to be perfect. It's going to remember. I have a client the other day where she was like, Nicole, I called this lead, and they go, stop, he's drunk, filled out that form. And it's like, yep, you're going to deal with some of those, but you're getting to the diamonds in the rough. Sales is about sorting. So I'm glad you were able to find those diamonds, and can't wait to hear what you make out of it.
Hopefully it'll do well. I mean, you got to know what to expect out of marketplace. It's a totally different group of clientele.
Mhm.
Yep.
I've gotten 4 good leads and 2 definites. So, I mean, it's a good start.
Awesome. It's great
Love
perspective.
it, Michael.
Yeah.
Guys, these are some phenomenal wins. Anybody else? Going once,
Nice.
going twice. Awesome. Okay, guys, well, we're going to roll right into the Q&A time. So what questions do you have? What issues have you ran into this week? Maybe it's like, why did you come to this group call today? What were you wanting to get out of it? What were you needing this morning to hear? And so what questions do we have? What issues are we running into? Or maybe what learning happened this week where you're like, man, let me share this so that somebody else doesn't make the same mistake I did or run into the same thing. So would love for you to turn on your camera, unmute, and tell us what's happening. Jordan, go for it.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
Go for it.
So twofold question. Curious what Laura has noticed different when following the script, and then 2, Travis, we could talk about this a little bit more later, but I've noticed like my office gals are definitely gleaning things from the script, but I don't think they're fully following the script yet. So the second part of that question is just, how can we have that conversation and, get people more on board with following it more closely.
Yeah. Laura, I'll let you kind of answer the first part.
Okay, so coming from the phone, being the phone girl, and mind you, I started answering the phone for my grandfather when I was 13 years old. So I've been doing this a long time. Obviously, back in the early days, you didn't have to sell anything. We were the only contractor in town. They just called to book it. But now, you're competing with a lot of other people. And I suppose the challenge for me was just embracing that the sales process it's an experience that we had never had before, where you have to actually sell yourself. They're just not going to give you the job. So what I found is knowing what to say and trusting that the script is the path to get you to the end goal. It was my hardest part. And what I'm finding that's surprising is the clients seem to really like and engage in the dialogue. Like it's maybe like the clarity of the communication. You're asking the questions to get to the solution, and they seem to like it. Like I was having a real hard time with, well, what budget do you have in mind? And then the rebuttal to that is if they don't want to answer it, you have kind of a soothing, well, I appreciate that that's kind of an awkward question, but so there's like an answer for every potential outcome, I guess. So just encourage your staff to have it printed out. What I do is I have it printed out there in front of me. And, it's not a perfect science. I mean, it's just really more of a prompt, and you don't necessarily have to memorize it word for word, but the essence and the energy of it and the structure is what I find is most helpful. So I think you'll find most people, the tire kicker, to get rid of the people that are just the tire kickers. I love it for that, because I've been able to weed through people real quick now. Whereas in the past, we would jump through a hoop to try and accommodate them, and then they waste our time. So now I'm able to, sort and filter the tire kickers a lot more efficiently and focus more time on the people who generally are ready to spend some money.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you deal with the frustrations of the tire kickers? I find that's one of the things that my office gals get frustrated with fairly easily, is the tire kickers.
You just can't take it personal. And I struggle with that because I guess I tend to be more, I don't want to say people pleasing because it seems to be such a stigma, but like I care about what I do. So I want my client to be happy whether they hire us or not. I want them to have a positive experience. But at the end of the day, it's business and you can't take it personal. Like you can't get your feelings hurt, or you can't feel used or betrayed that, they didn't hire you. I mean, it's hard when you get, when they don't choose you, or oh, you charge too much, or it's just, you got to let it roll off your back. And it's hard. It's really
Amen.
hard to do.
Yeah, another way we phrase that same idea is to gamify the situation, to gamify the interaction that you have with that customer. There's a way to, not minimizing them as people. You still want to serve and do well for them, but to almost win at the level. If you're vetting out a lead, to consider that a win. Even if they wasted 5 minutes, they didn't waste 30 minutes, you won in that regard. So kind of gamifying it in ways you can.
Yeah, not seeing no's as rejections, but seeing no's as an opportunity to get better, or no's as an opportunity to get to that yes. You're gonna have those no's. You're not gonna win everybody. And one thing, Laura, that I love, and I say this all the time with clients who are getting emotional about the script. I don't care what script you use. You can edit the heck out of it. I don't care if you use ours, use someone else's. I don't care. Any good sales script is going to have rapport, needs, benefits, close. It's going to have those four things. And so as long as it has those four things, which Laura, that's kind of what you're talking about, how people like the pathway I'm bringing them down, because you are building rapport with them, you are hearing them out, you're finding their needs, which is part of the process, that sorting. You're building those benefits, which we know without value, the only thing people care about is price. So for that very first phone call, we're doing those benefits, and then we're closing the deal. You're solving their problem. And so if you're getting emotional about the script, just keep that in mind. You can do the script as much as you want. In fact, we encourage it. Rapport, needs, benefits, close. Needs to have those 4 aspects of it. And Jordan, I think that's solid advice about just gamifying it, not making it an emotional thing. We can still care about the person on the other end of the phone and have a good human interaction and not be butthurt when they don't book, or when they're a tire kicker. I'm a big believer that every single person at some point in their life should have to do cold calls. As somebody who, when was first hired at Redmond Growth, had to do cold calls when we were doing over 200 calls a day, because it really teaches you to not be emotional with the phone, to not be butthurt.
Yeah, I think for me, I've had to take the phones for almost 7 years, so I've kind of gotten used to that. So I
Right.
don't really take it personally anymore, and that honestly is exactly what I've been sharing with them. But it's good to hear from others, like that you're on the right track when it comes to that, for certain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Nah,
it may
good
be
stuff.
worth, Jordan, having like your office gals on a coaching call with you and your coach, because sometimes hearing it, like me getting advice from one of my parents sometimes doesn't get received well, but if my older sister gives me the same advice, sometimes I receive that a lot better just because it's from her and not from a parent, and so sometimes getting advice from somebody who isn't, directly working with you or isn't your boss, or hearing a new perspective, sometimes that can get received a little bit better.
As my boys would say, show right. Show right.
Show right. I love that. I'm going to start saying that, Jordan.
That's what Bryce always says too.
Well, Bryce isn't one of my kids, but
Papa?
What other questions do we have here today, guys? This has been great feedback. Questions, concerns, grievances?
Yeah.
Nicole, as far as the script that they're talking about, that's something you and I will get into later, right? Since I just kind of jumped on board.
Oh, yeah, Jason. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. And pretty much anything that you think of, like in regards to scripts, checklists, processes, before trying to build it, shoot me an email, shoot me a text and say, hey, do you have this? Chances are we do. Or we can customize something that's a template and make it, what you're looking for.
Sure. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. What other questions do we have? Well, one question that a client told me he wasn't able to be here today, but wanted me to ask. It's weight construction, Matt. And he is at the stage in his business right now where it's just him as the owner, and he's doing like the estimating, he's doing the project, like the project management, and then he has like 3 guys in the field actually executing the jobs. And we just posted a job yesterday for a project manager position / kind of estimator. We're just kind of casting a wide net and seeing, do we want to hire estimators so that Matt doesn't have to do sales and then he steps in the project manager role? Or do we want to hire a project manager and then Matt can just focus on sales? I'm curious if any clients here, kind of Matt's biggest concern is how to pay this person. This will be his like first, employee that might have a little bit of commission, might have some bonuses. He's a little bit worried, like project managers might be a little bit more costly. Does he have some like real world experience on what that was like for them hiring that first person and how they paid them? Kevin, I know you're about to be in this stage too, so you're probably just as curious as Matt is about the answer to this question. Laura, I don't know if you have an answer or if you're saying, yes, I am having the same concerns.
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate. I can share what not to do.
I think that's very good. Yes, share.
Very appropriate.
So just some background. My brother Matt and I are 4th generation to run our family construction business. And, we grew up in our dad's shadow while he was running the company. And one of the things I observed him doing for many years was hiring project managers and not setting expectation. and they drew big salaries, which sucked up a lot of overhead, money going out to pay them, and they didn't perform. So I think that as you're planning to hire a role to help, whether it's project management or estimating sales, like they gotta, I don't know how the timeline, this is where Redmond will be so valuable, but somebody needs to structure what their duties are, and you got to deliver by this date, or off with your head, whatever. Because if you hire somebody and you're just paying them, and it just gets real expensive real quick. And I saw that as one of the mistakes my dad made, and we're not going to do that, but just make sure you have a plan for them and that they're ready to deliver.
Ugh, Laura, I feel like we need a choir behind you today. I feel like you've just been spitting truths all morning here. Get you a soapbox. Because, and I feel like this has been a theme on a lot of our group calls, setting expectations and then holding people accountable is backbone of every system, of every job. We have to set expectations with our clients, we have to set expectations with our employees, and we got to hold everybody accountable to them. Otherwise, the expectations shouldn't even be there if we aren't holding people accountable to them. And one thing, Laura, that people's biggest fear when they're talking to me about I need to hire somebody is, Nicole, I know that this, a lot of times I hear this, I know it's going to be an expense. I know it's going to be an expense. And my answer to that is no, it is not. It is only going to be an expense if we are not setting expectations and holding that employee accountable to those expectations. Because if we're doing that, they are always going to be an asset that's bringing in more revenue than they are costing you. An employee is only an expense when they are either a bad fit or they're being managed poorly. And setting those expectations, having a clear plan, holding them accountable to their duties and their individual KPIs, we call them key performance indicators, holding them accountable to that, that's what's going to allow you to be able to make sure the activities they're doing, they're bringing in more revenue than they're costing you. I was telling Matt, a project manager, having somebody on the ground that allows him to do more work a lot faster and take on more jobs, that should easily bring in another around $6,000 a week for him. And if it doesn't, then they're either not the right fit or we're not, managing them well enough that they aren't, equipped to be able to take on that much work. And so it's always an asset when managed properly. Hey, yes,
I would add one thing to that.
Yes, Brandon.
A lot of people in construction don't view the schedule as something that should be a KPI. And when you're a project manager, it absolutely has to be. The schedule that gets set by the estimator, there should be, you could track it as a percentage of time over or time under or whatever you want to set for a KPI off of that baseline schedule. But when we talk to my guys that are managing projects, we have a KPI for revenue and a KPI for the schedule that are the only two important things in their world, really. And if you can have both of those things, that you're presenting it to them not just as the project schedule, but as a KPI that is an indicator of whether or not they're still going to be employed with you, that puts enough emphasis on the schedule to show how important it is to you, and not that it's just kind of a rough guideline. Oh, if something goes wrong, we'll just add a couple days or something. The opportunity costs that you lose tied to that lost couple days are tremendous. So
Yep.
Yes.
It's the phrase, you measure what you treasure. What's important
Yep.
to you, you're going to track. And what you track, you have to talk about. Otherwise, it's meaningless to be keeping record of it.
Yes. And
That's good.
you can't hold somebody accountable to expectations that you do not clearly communicate. Like telling a project manager they need to do better is not. I remember my dad used to tell me that when he was my golf coach in a golf tournament. I was not the most coachable kid, and I would get really frustrated, and I'd be like, "What am I doing wrong?" And he would go, "You're just gonna have to play better." It's like, okay, well, tell me, how do I do that? And the same thing goes when you're managing your team. If you have a technician who's consistently bringing in less revenue than everybody else, well, are we tracking their individual KPIs? How many jobs are we sending them out to? How many estimates are they winning? How many jobs are they doing? What's their average ticket? What are they bringing in? That's going to allow you to see the problem. Is it their closing ratio? Is it their estimating? Are they moving too slow on the job? If you haven't set those KPIs for them and said, hey, let's hold accountable to this. Let's look at these on a weekly basis. Let me train you based on what we're seeing. That's the only opportunity to really help them grow, tangibly get better. So, Brandon, I really appreciate you sharing that. Maria, I saw your hand go up. This is Maria. She just started Summit Home Solutions, just hired their first employee. Maria is their new office manager. And now we're looking to hire a project manager for them.
Yes. That's what I wanted to bring up because I'm kind of on the other end of the hiring. Freaking do it, I guess is all I can say. Is like, I can't tell you, one, how less stressed Riley is, but how much more we have coming in literally in the past 2 weeks, so much that we're actively looking for project managers. It's like, if we book half of these, like, we're going to need someone else. Like, that's how quickly it's growing when you have the extra person helping. So like, maybe I'm a little biased because hire your office staff, but we also very much communicate, and I have a list of exactly what needs to be done. And then I have a list for him, what I need done from him. Hey, I need to know where this is at. I need to know if I need to call this person. Like, just clear expectations. I totally agree with that. He was super nervous, but I think he's relieved now. I don't want to speak for him. He's not on the call, but Nicole.
Oh yeah, no, I got an email the first week that Maria started where he was like, "Thank you so much for pushing me to hire. I was really nervous about it, but now I can't believe how much helpful it's been." And then we had the same conversation in our last meeting where he's like, "I'm just nervous to hire a project manager. I don't know if I'm ready." And I'm like, "Riley, we just went through this, buddy. It's going to be good." Well, Maria, thank you so much for being here. What other questions do we have here today, guys?
So I run a kind of a rehab remodel business, and we don't do a lot of advertising right now, which obviously we need to do something, and we can talk about that, Nicole. But I just want our numbers to get bigger. So, I mean, is hiring a salesperson for something like that? I mean, do they go door to door? Do they make, cold calls? What would you say is the best route for that?
I think, Jason, there's so much marketing to tap into for you outside of that. I'm not saying that doesn't work. We have seen that work, especially like roofing tends to still be an industry that door-to-door sales can have some success in. And definitely we do have, remodelers who have like a dedicated estimator. There's so many low-hanging fruit activities to get leads outside of hiring somebody to do door to door that we haven't tapped into yet for you,
Okay.
Jason. Like, I think Laura can talk to it. I think Maria can talk to it. I'm sure there's other clients on here who aren't my client that can talk to it about what the work that can be done with your Google business listing and Google local services alone that can generate a butt ton of work for you without having to hire, somebody to generate those leads.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can attest to the Google local services stuff. I just started it, I don't know, maybe a month ago. I mean, I'm getting 5 to 8 calls a week, and now some of them are miscellaneous. They're not necessarily the projects that I want, but they're $7,000-8,000 deals where I can knock them out in a few days, and it just generates some cash flow just waiting for. There have been a couple of bigger remodels and stuff like that, and I do similar to what you do, Jason. And so I'm spending, I think, roughly $500 a week on the lead generation, and so to me it seems to be paying off pretty well. So I'm like maybe a month and a half or 2 months in front of you, Jason, with Bryce, and It's just a do the work kind of thing and follow the guidelines that they're giving you, and and it's gonna. I see it at the end of the tunnel realistically, just because that was part of my deal. Is I just wasn't getting enough leads, and I just thought, I've been doing this a long time. Shouldn't my phone be ringing? Well, I mean, we just had a hailstorm, and my whole background is roofing. I got 0 phone calls. Now I have a salesperson that she's worked for me for a long time, off and on. She sold probably 10 roofs just from her previous customers over the past year. She doesn't do anything. So but back to the Google local services, I learned so much going through that portion, and just I'm surprised, honestly, because I just didn't realize how important those 2 things were to the lead generation these days.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And I will say, to James's credit too, he is taking what we talk about and running with it. He's a remodeler, and a lot of remodelers say, well, I don't have a ton of customers. I can't get a lot of Google reviews. And I think, Jay, you got 40 reviews in the first week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. Just following up with people. Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're still muted, Jay.
That dang mute button gets the best of us.
Yeah. It hasn't been quite 40. I had 88, I think, when we started, and I think I have 112 or something now. So, but it's just the whole driving, not realizing the Google reviews drive so much, and the lead generation part of it was surprising to me.
Oh yeah, Dale Eads can testify to that. Has been in business by himself for, I think Dale, you said, like over 15 years. He's been with us for, I think, almost 5 years now. But when he first started with us, he's been in business 15 years. He has a huge pipeline of repeat customers and referrals. I think he had less than 11 reviews. And it's just because if you're not actively asking for those reviews, people don't think to leave them. Now, because of how intentional he is, I think we're over the 700 mark, Dale. I think the other day we were talking about 70 is what he has now. And so if you're not intentional about it, and just like you said, James, just because you've been in business a long time doesn't mean that people know you're there. That online presence is so valuable.
It's a new age of when people talk about most work coming from word of mouth, right? We can capture word of mouth in the form of Google reviews. That's the new frame of word of mouth work.
Yeah.
Something else I'll say for you, Jason, and I know you're very early on, so Nicole's going to cover all this stuff with you, but as far as seeing the numbers grow, another way of growing those numbers is your sales process. If you improve your conversion ratio, you only need 6 leads to close 3 jobs instead of needing 10 leads to close 3 jobs, right? That makes a huge, huge, huge impact on the bottom line. Plus, you always want to make sure as you start getting more marketing done, this is what Jay and I have been working on the past few weeks too, is make sure your pricing's right. Make sure you're giving yourself the right margin, because that if you get more work, you want that work to be profitable as well.
Bryce, we could put the choir behind you right now. And that's what Jason sent me his profit and loss statement this morning. I did the review, broke down all of his numbers earlier today. And that's what we're going to be focusing on, because getting more leads, getting more work doesn't matter if the numbers don't make sense. Then you're just that hamster working really hard, running on that wheel, and you're not getting anywhere. There's nothing to show for it. And so those really go hand in hand. That's why at Redmond Growth, those are the first 2 things we focus on for 90% of clients, is lead generation, pricing, and cash flow, because one will not go well without the other. You gotta have both. What other questions do we have here today, team? Concerns, grievances?
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned. Going once. Kevin.
So last week we were talking about cost plus. Nicole, you sent me some things and I watched it, and I told you I was going to come with some questions, and here I am. So how is everyone presenting their cost plus? I know you sent out a figure it out, which we kind of do anyways on the backside, but how is everyone presenting that cost plus proposals, I guess?
Can anybody testify? Jordan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so we just started using that about, I think, 2 months ago. And I played around with how I present it a little bit. Most of the time, I just transfer the information from the spreadsheet over to my CRM into an estimate, and I line item everything out, so all of our materials with the material costs, our labor with labor costs, and then we have some ancillary labor in there, overhead, and profit, and all that stuff is still completely separated and on a different line. And I've just found by doing that, most of my customers have like almost no questions. They're able to look at it and see exactly where everything's at. And used to be, I would get a lot of questions like, well, what's the breakdown of that? Or, there would just be a lot more questions. The other thing I've been playing around with, I've been doing video presentations with customers and actually just letting them see the spreadsheet because I don't have anything to hide. So I'm literally showing them my work. And I have one customer, I'm almost positive I won just because I spent the time with him and we had a lot of different options we were looking at. So when I presented, I was able to make quick changes and allow him to see how that would change his project. And where before it was like, well, I'll have to get back to you on that, and now it's just, I factor those in, have a separate line, like if it's a difference in material, we're electrical contractors, so we may have a copper bus panel versus aluminum bus panel or something. I'll make sure that's already in there and have the lesser option zeroed out. And then if they question, well, how much is this other one? I can just zero out the greater option and make a fast change, and they can see how that affects their bottom line, their total at the bottom.
Yep.
So that actually has worked out really well for me and created significantly less questions on estimates.
Jordan, I love it. So many things to break down from that. One, the transparency. That's why cost plus people are so scared, because they're scared of being transparent. But that's what your customer wants. They know you're running a business. They know you're going to make a profit off of it. It's okay to show them. This is what it's costing. This is the fee of using me as a contractor. This covers the overhead, our profit, paying myself. That's what this is. People like to see that. Now, I will go so far as to say, it does not matter how you do your estimate, if you're cost plus, markup, however, if you are not reviewing it in person or over Google Meet, and that's something that Jordan just said, he's doing it over Google Meet, he's presenting it to them. Most valuable part of it, is being able to go over that estimate with them, not sending them to review it beforehand. They don't know construction. They don't know what it should cost. And it robs you of the opportunity to customize, which is another point Jordan made. That makes your customer feel like they are in control. When they see you in there saying, okay, instead of this, we could do this. If this is your budget, we can, instead of doing these types of countertops, we can do these. They are going to give you a very similar look, but it's going to cost you blank less. It's not that we're saying, okay, let me just give you a discount and then you're hurting your profit margin. No, it's saying that we're going to work with the customer to have multiple options. Anytime you can give multiple options or customize, it allows the customer to feel like they're in control, which is why Jordan's now seeing that people are closing right then and there. It's because they feel confident and in control. It also becomes a pick one compared to a yes or no. When you just email off and shoot off a number, it's a yes or no. And if that number's bigger than they think it should have been, they're going to say no or just not respond. They're going to ghost you. But if you're able to sit there, explain it, customize it, answer questions, build value, your sales process is going to go faster. Your closing ratio is going to be higher. Promise. We see it every single time.
I no longer just email an estimate off anymore. All of our projects that we do now, it's either in person or Google Meet. They don't even get to see their estimate until we've scheduled a presentation. And I don't spend a ton of time talking through it. I just basically walk them from top to bottom, and then just like I would in person, I'll just shut up for a minute and let them look at it, ask whatever questions they want, and make whatever edits or changes they may want from there.
I love it, Jordan.
Jordan, do you, just because I'll pick on you for a second, do you utilize your one sheet at all in that? Is that something that you touch on in those conversations as well?
So it's funny you asked that, because I was actually thinking about that just the other day, about adding that to my presentation process. And I want to say I've done it once. I actually pulled that up as part of my presentation. But yeah, it's something that I've thought about adding to that process.
Yeah.
Like literally just yesterday, I was thinking about this, and then here you are asking me that question.
Good. Yeah, easy
Love it. Well, I
transition into
figured
it
Mike.
is, hey, by the way, how much do you know about us? They'll have whatever answer, and then you're able to hit a few points, but that's good. And for those that don't know, the one sheet is a one-pager that's just got a few powerful comparisons of, us versus the other guys, kind of what we're about versus maybe stereotypes you've believed. So
I don't know how you feel about it, but I usually spend way more time talking about us, because I know they can see the cons, right? They can see that they're there.
Oh yeah.
But I like to stay on the positive side of it, and I never mention other companies specifically by name.
Right.
Correct.
Ever.
Yeah, we're not dogging on anybody. It's just your duty as the business owner to say, here's what's typical, here's what you can expect from most people, here's what we do that's a little bit different. And you highlight those different things, And so love to hear that, Jordan. If you're reviewing that one sheet right before you go over the estimate, go over prices, that's the last thing that's on their mind before you hit them with the price, is what value you're bringing. And so I love going over that one sheet, even if you already have gone over it earlier in the sales process, just briefly, kind of quickly reminder. Again, here's what you can expect with us. Bam, 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 bam. Let's get the estimate. So that's just fresh on their mind, that value. Michael, I see your hand up here.
I was just going to mess with Bryce and ask him what the one sheet was.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Now you know.
It took.
I already knew.
That's a question Michael's heard from me many times. I think it took us a month of having the one sheet before we started printing it out and then getting to use it as well. But it's been good since.
Yes. Anton, I see your hand up.
There it is.
Hi, everybody. Yes, my name is Anton, and I have a kitchen store in Massachusetts. And this year, we're moving towards kitchen remodeling. So I'm hiring people, already had several projects. So I would like to touch a little bit upon the topic that was earlier in the call about the tire kickers. So I understand that my business is a little bit different from contracting businesses. But like when I have people who walk in my store and clearly they just see they come for inspiration, I call those people tire kickers. I understand that they're not there to buy. They're just there to kind of, get inspiration, get impressed, see what's going on. And then I see those people who sort of already made a decision that they want to buy. Now they're just, they're in planning. They want to see what's out there. What's available, what's the price, what's the scope, and I kind of distinguish the two. So the tire kickers, I feel like, okay, they're not a buyer today, but they might be in 2, 3, 5 years, and I give them a lot of good information about how you make a kitchen, what's there, so I educate them, and I feel that that's a good response, and they can come back 2, 3 years. And the planning stage customers is those who are like they still don't know what exactly is the project, how large it's going to be, but that's where I compete. And if you lose that customer, let's say they go to somebody else, or you vet them out, I don't necessarily call them a tire kicker. They're kind of already in a they are a customer. Maybe they're not my customer, but they are somebody else's customer. So I don't know if it matters at all, but like I treat the true tire kickers, I actually educate them, because hopefully they will come back to me 2, 3 years later, if you have such a time, obviously. And those who are already kind of shopping around, it's a little bit different category. And I think that warrants a little bit different approach as well. So I would like to touch on that too.
Yes,
Mhm.
Anton, one thing that I love that you highlighted is kind of like the tire kickers aren't necessarily like a giant waste of my time. You know, like yes, we want to sort through people. Sales is about sorting. We want to get through them quickly, but they might end up being a customer at some point. That's why at Redmond Growth we are so passionate about marketing to not just your customer list, but to your leads. Like if you have leads from people walking
Mhm.
into a store, from Facebook ads that you're never able to get on them, from website forms, never able to get a hold of them, or even people who you gave estimates to and they never said that yes or no, or said they had to wait or whatever, sending them monthly or biweekly newsletters. It doesn't need to be a special. It could be, but it could be check out this latest install that we did. Do you know we also offer blank? Staying
Yeah.
in front of those leads is so valuable. It's low-hanging fruit. That's people who already know you. And just because they didn't say yes right then doesn't mean that they wouldn't be your ideal likely buyer in the future. And so, Anton, I hope that you're able, with those walk-ins. I have one client, she has a shop that people, walk into, and they have like a sign up sheet for their newsletter, but they also do monthly drawings to help to kind of incentivize people to sign up there, so that she's really capturing the email phone number, and they get the
Mhm.
vast majority of their sales from their emails and texts because they've just built up that base. Um, and so
Yeah.
that's something that I would talk to your coach about is, hey, how could we, make sure to capture the information of the people who are walking in?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's something I was hoping you were going to talk on, Nicole, with that. Because yeah, Garden Diva has done really well with capturing information. If they're a tire kicker and you have a storefront type of business, capturing information is most important because then you can run those call it shaking the hills of your past customers,
Mhm.
or shaking the trees, sorry, and mining the hills of your past customers. I put them both together,
I love
but
it.
that's good. I
Yeah.
also liked the point that you made too, Anton, of um, if they've decided but they don't necessarily like part of my process, or if they're going to haggle on certain things, you didn't put exactly this way, but this idea, they're maybe a customer, yes, but they're not my customer. There is a customer that fits what you're wanting to do, and it does make sense to say no to some opportunities that are, you can just tell it's going to be a bad clientele. Maybe they would say yes, but that that yes would turn into a headache for weeks and months if you take on that client, and it takes away from every other client you
Yeah.
have.
Brandon, I saw your hand up and so do you have a comment, question? Would love to get your feedback.
Yeah, so we made a sheet. I made a sheet a few years ago in a company that I was working at then, where we outlined kind of the stages that people go through when they're planning out a project, and you use some of the right words, like when they're in the inspiration phase and the planning phase and design phase and estimating phase. So I made a sheet with that, and I put a horizontal line in between all of those phases for the process that we were working on. And I just told them at every horizontal line is a time when there's no obligation for either one of us to move forward. Like if we're going to move forward beyond the next horizontal line, we're doing that together. And but it helped a lot to be able to have something to show people to say, I see you at this stage of the process. Is that where you see yourself? And some of the tire kickers, like if you tried to say, well, I see you in the planning phase, they're like, oh, we're really just in the inspiration phase. It's like, okay, well, that's good to know. I'm glad that you see yourself in that spot. And sometimes you see them in the inspiration phase and they think they're way down 3 steps later, ready to get an estimate. And especially for things like kitchens, there's so many decisions that need to be made before you'd ever get to that point. It helped us really expedite
Hmm.
getting everyone in the same spot in the process.
Wow.
I love that,
Yeah,
Brandon.
that's great.
I've never thought about that, and that's such a helpful tool. Get a little bit more tangible of, hey, here's kind of the stages of doing a remodel. This is where it sounds like you guys are kind of at, but where am I off base here? Where do you think you're at in it? That's
Yeah.
going to give you a lot more insight as well.
Clarity, expectations, communication every week.
That's the theme always. All right, guys, we got a couple minutes left here. What questions do we have in our final few? if any. Well, guys, I
Yeah.
really appreciate the questions today and the feedback. I think it's
Yeah.
been a great call. Really appreciate all of the, clients who chimed in. It's so valuable. One thing that I have to share, it's a win that actually came in during this group call. And I talked to Dale with Arnold's Plumbing earlier this week, and he let me know that this win was probably going to happen this week. Weren't sure. I'm going to share my screen here because Dale texted me and he is officially a grandpa. His
Ah,
grandchild was born last night. His son is his lead technician in his company. And I'm just so happy for you, Dale. And thank you so much for sharing and excited for this new journey.
nice.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was so sweet. Well, keep us posted, Dale. I have a feeling that that's gonna become your world here. Probably already has. Okay, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for being here and for sharing. If you have any questions, need any elaboration, please don't hesitate to reach out to your coaches, what we're here for. But we're going to close out this group call with a big 3, 2, 1 growth. So if I could get everybody to unmute for me, if you turn on your camera, we'd love to see your face. All right. Sean, I see you. Jordan, good to see you. All right, we're going to do 3, 2, 1.
Go!
Grow.
Go.
Bye, guys.